stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.
One sec. Let me cook for
In
a sec.
other words, darling,
I have to get chat pulled up over here on my screen. So slow.
fill my heart with song
I'm slow today. I'm slow today. There's so many colors in chat. This is so cool.
You are all I long for. All I
One sec. Fixing. And wait for it. Pro streamer! He did it. He hasn't been. Oh, did I? Yes, I did.
Today the scrap mechanic stream.
I love you. All right. What is happening in chat? Let's get through it real quick. Let's get through what's happening in chat. Let's say hi to everybody. Oh my gosh, a lot of people already. Dude, I didn't even do nothing yet. Okay. Let's go through this real quick. Music is a little loud. Okay, should be good. Okay. Let's see. Scrap stream question mark. How did you get fired? Is today the scrap stream? Yes, let's go. Oh man, scrap stream. Please be the scrap stream, please. Hello Lily, no way, it's Pi. Welcome Doja, welcome Cool Pencil, welcome ADG. How is it going? I also saw Dowfish in here at some point. How's it going, Smelly? Welcome to the stream. Let's see. We got, yep, he's bad at working. Thank you, Dowfish. Howdy, Lily. How's it going? Welcome, aka Midnight Beauty. I'm always yellow. Lol. I think on YouTube, can you change it? No, on Twitch you can change it. I don't know if you can change it on YouTube. Not sure. Pi told me this story, but I'll let him tell you. Imagine being fired from your job. Doja, okay, first off, what do you know? Like, first off, Doja, like, what are you yapping about? You don't know anything. We want the tea. I got you. Chat's working out good. You're in South Carolina still? Nice. Alright. I need to give you guys some tea. But first, let me explain the plan for the day. I like pausing and unpausing the music. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. This stream, the live stream that I am currently doing right here, is going to be solely me yapping. And it's not going to be too long. It's going to be me yapping. And then I'm going to end stream. What? I turned off sound for notifications on Steam. What the heck? Okay, now I have to fix this. Awoken, please stop. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna beat the Awoken up with my prayers. Hold up. I have to fix this. I have to make it not do this. Steam settings? No, the Pi guy. View profile. I sent one thing, that's it. No, we're turning off on notifications entirely. I just don't remember how to do it. Activity profile, blah, 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 blah. Sorry for railing on your milk preferences. You're not sorry. Steam. I have to figure this out. You have to give me a second. Okay, here we go. Then notifications. What the heck? Steam notification. Notify me when I receive a friend invitation. No, when I... What the heck? Everything is already set to never. Play a sound notification. Toast is displayed. Show notification. Toast is never. What the heck? Alright. Awoken, please. Let me cook. Alright. Brian bought Scrap Mechanic today? I did buy Scrap Mechanic. Also, Smelly, you're wrong about the milk thing, and everyone else is too. I want to hear the tea before I have to go down to the beach. Okay. I'll get into it. I'm sorry I'm yapping. Alright, let's get into the tea. But not all of the tea. There are some things I feel as though I should not discuss. Okay. Alright. Let's everybody calm down. Alright, everybody take a step away from your keyboard for a second. Alright. I'm seeing a lot being flung around right now in chat. Alright, let's everybody take a deep breath in. Okay. Okay. Here's what happened. I'll explain this with no music. I'll just kind of talk for a minute. Okay. No. The plan. Okay. So I'm gonna yap, and then I'm gonna end stream because I'm having dinner with my grandma tonight, and then I'm gonna go live again tonight. So I'm doing 2 live streams today. So yeah, pro streamer, making up that time, and yeah, in that second live stream, I will either play Scrap Mechanic, which I don't think I'm gonna be doing today. I think that's gonna be like a tomorrow thing or something. Or, more likely, I will game with Awoken, ADG, and Mini if they are available. I don't think Mini is around, but it might be me, Awoken, ADG, and if not, then we'll do Scrap, I think. Fair? Fair? And then if we don't do Scrap today, we'll do it tomorrow or the next day or whatever. Mini's still on vacation until tomorrow. That's what I figured. But I wasn't sure. Okay. Alright, I'll talk now. So, it's weird without music. I have to put something on. Here we go. All right. So. Let me make this quieter. This was kind of subtly there. Okay. Cool. I may hang out with another friend. I'm not sure what the time looks like yet. You'll keep me posted. All right. Yeah, sounds good. Whatever works. Just let me know. Let me know, ADG. Okay. Here is what went down. I'm gonna keep this very, what's the word? I'm gonna be very careful about what I say. Nervous? Story time? Yeah, if you do Scrap, make the stream earlier than you normally stream. I know, because you want to do Scrap. Okay. Here's what happened. So. The place that I was employed, which, if you haven't guessed, I no longer am, was the camp Wesley Forest, a Christian United Methodist Church summer camp. I personally, sorry, this music's a little loud. I think that's fine. Actually, I'll turn this down. No, I'll keep this up. Okay. I personally, okay. I personally am a global Methodist. I'm not a United Methodist. So, yo, what's going on, Tomboy Lover? Very nice first message to my chat. Great to have you here. Okay, this is the first message of all time. Alright, so, yeah. The camp does not exactly align with my beliefs entirely, but it's very close. I used to be United Methodist. That's not necessarily the point, but this has brought up a little bit of conflict in the past. So, there was already a little bit of conflict at the camp. That being said, some more got added on this summer. You see, the living arrangement had changed. Without going too much into detail, there were some noticeable changes that I thought were difficult to adjust to. And I kind of dealt with it. It made the job, in my opinion, harder and less enjoyable. But ultimately, I really liked my job. And I was a huge fan of spreading the word of God to all the campers. I love spending time with the campers. I love spending time with the staff. And I think just about everybody who works there is a great person. And is there for the same reason. Because they want to spread love, positivity, Christianity, what have you. That deserves a pin, okay? So, alright. However, there was a little bit of turmoil. If that's how you want to put it. You see, with the shift in some of the management that happened at the camp, there was a large leap between the previous camp director and the new one. As in the new one that I also had last year. Well, some conflict arose last year, and I sort of pushed it to the side because I really wanted to just enjoy the job. And this year, I got rehired, and I was thinking, I really did enjoy the job last year, and I'm really glad I did it last year. I had such a great time, and I was really looking forward to that this year. But at the same time, there were some things that I did not necessarily agree with. And this is not just my own religious take on this camp. It really has nothing to do with that. Because I believe very similarly to the foundation of this camp. No, it was more so the way that I feel as though the camp was being run last year and this year, especially, did not necessarily align with my work ethic values or my understanding of how a functioning, healthy business itself should run. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a lot about business or a lot about how to run a summer camp, but I will say that there were a lot of mistakes that were so easily preventable. There were a lot of miscommunications that were very easy to stop in the very beginning. And this all culminated in a major dynamic forming where I cannot speak on behalf of anybody else who works there or has worked there in the past, but from my own perspective, it seems as though there is a misalignment between the morality and, I guess, work ethic values of the staff and that of the management. And that's frustrating for people who really want to work hard and spread the love of God and who want to be a part of this bigger thing, and those who it feels sometimes like they do not. So this ultimately accumulated into a bigger problem than it had to be. It seemed like, due to the shift in management, there were some, and again, I'm trying to be very cautious about what I say because I don't even know what I'm allowed to say. So all of this, I'm speaking from my own perspective, opinion, and things that I have encountered or felt or witnessed myself. Was it a conversion therapy camp? You may think. You may think. That's the thing with a lot of camps. It seems it's a Bible camp. Conversion to being based. Where is Chef and the other Lily? Are they still there? They're still at the camp. They're still at the camp. Anyway, so all right, back to this. Back to the story. So, I think that there was a noticeable shift in my mood and some of my behaviors. At least that is a point that was brought to my attention that I had not really noticed, but that was pointed out to me by one of the managers who I work for. She came to me and told me that my behavior was very different and that she was worried about me. Now, I did not necessarily notice this. I think a lot of comparisons were drawn between present me and me from last summer. I still love being very loud and boisterous. I'm very excitable, especially when it comes to things like live streaming. I love being loud and yelling and, having a big grin on my face and interacting with chat and all this stuff. My closest friends, I love being loud and obnoxious and crazy around them. I love, feeding that energy into our group dynamic. But a lot of the time, especially with a new group of people who I'm unfamiliar with, especially with a place that I have not been in a very long time, like Wesley Forest or something like that, I am a lot quieter nowadays. And I think that's just a byproduct of a lot of the experiences that I've been through in the last year. I think I'm a lot more independent of a person. I think a large part of that is because I broke both of my arms. Through some of the experiences I've been through, positive and negative, I've had to learn to become more independent and more self-sufficient. And that has, in turn, inherently made me shift my personality. And I don't think it's for worse at all. I think that the person I am now is a really great person. And I don't really enjoy patting myself on the back. It feels very like self-centered and egocentric, but I will say that based on, the interactions I've had with people, a lot, especially with like people in chat, like Lily, like ADG, like Awoken, aka Dowfish, like, people who I try to, make a conscious effort to talk to more, even if I'm not, great at it a lot of the time because I get absorbed in my own world. I think a lot of the time I portray myself as somebody who's fun loving and all this stuff while still like being level headed and, trying to stay engaged and care more about the person than the subject matter, as in like more about the person than the job, or more about the person than the game, or more about the person than, the speed run, or whatever the case. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm not listening to everybody. Yes, I know you're there, Doger. Yes, I care very much about you too. Ain't no way you said AKA Dowfish. Who you're typing it as in chat right now. What am I gonna say? But you can call me out if you disagree. But I really think that in this last year, especially in the last few months, I made a conscious effort to try to be more attentive, especially to people I care about. So, one day when it was brought to my attention that my boss thought that I did not care, at least to my understanding, my boss thought that I did not care about numerous aspects of the job or of the camp. It really it hurt my heart. I'll say it that way. It really it brought me down. Okay, I'll take a second to read chat because then you guys have been typing. YouTube Lily's better than Camp Lily. Guys, let's not compare Lilies. Both Lilies are great. You may think, I don't know what that's referring to, but it's in all caps with 4 question marks, so I assume it's very, very important. Is Lily not cool enough? Dang, Doger. The hype is fun, YouTube Lily. Okay, I totally get that from you. Yeah, I think that's how some people are. I know I'm more shy around people I've never seen before. Oh yeah, how are your arms? Do you do physical therapy? I used to do physical therapy. I did physical therapy for a few months, and I don't do it anymore. I have some exercises I can do, but I've gotten pretty much the range of motion back. The only thing is, well, I can't use super hard compression force on this one. On this one, I can move it around like this. This one, I can't without it hurting, if that makes sense. There we go. I think I caught up with chat. Okay. All right. Back to this. I think I like without music for a little bit. So, okay. Yeah, it hurt my soul a little bit to hear this from my boss. So, I sat down with one of my bosses. I have numerous. I sat down with one of the people above me, and we had a conversation. Now, I am not going to give you guys an I said, they said, I said, they said, I said, they said type deal. But from what I understand, it boiled down to the fact that it seemed like this noticeable change in my behavior, which I had not been necessarily aware of, was dragging down some of the other staff members, and it was dragging down the overall activities that I would lead in the camp. Now, I want to make this very clear. That is the message that I had received. I'm not saying that that is exactly the message that they were trying to portray, but that is exactly how it came off to me. Because I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths here or cause a bigger conflict. I am mainly talking to you guys about this because I want to explain sort of what's going on. So, that's also why I'm not using names. Dude, I bet this has to do with how the other stuff was annoying you during the Jump King stream. Like the cicada flying into my eye. No, yeah, there was a lot going on behind the scenes with just me. Not me as in like, oh, I'm going through like this mental health difficult period of my life. That's not the case at all. It's more so like just conflicts I have to deal with behind the scenes I did not really want to talk about on stream, but now that they've become relevant in my live streams, like to my live streaming career, if that's what you want to call it, it's not, but now that now that my camp life, like aka my work life, has become relevant to my streaming life, that's why I sort of want to talk about it a little bit without going too far into the nitty gritty, if that makes sense. So yeah. I first thought it was because you were up at 1 a.m. streaming Jump King. Lol. No, that is not the case. That is not the case. Well, so I heard this from my boss, one of my bosses. I heard that my behavior and mood was bringing people down, and I was a little confused on that. I talked to some other staff members, and they said they had been worried about me because they noticed a shift in my behavior from when I had first gotten to camp and in the first few days versus about 2.5 weeks into camp. Now, I see where they're coming from because I was a lot louder and more excitable in the first week, but I don't think that that is necessarily an accurate portrayal of who I am as a person all the time. I think in the real world, I am a lot how I am on stream, where I'm still very loud and excitable, but and like happy to engage and all this stuff. But ultimately, like I just enjoy kind of being in the moment here. I kind of enjoy like just being a part of it. I think I was very excited the very first week, which is why my behavior might have been a little more happy and bubbly at the summer camp because I was happy to get away from college. You know, I've undergone many trials and tribulations like this and numerous others in the last year, and it's nice to be able to, I guess, take a step out of that world and into the world of summer camp. If that makes sense. But as the feelings sort of mellowed out, I became sort of more of who I think I am, which is somebody who's still loud and fun and excitable, but ultimately a lot more, I guess, chilled out, if that makes sense. Unless I'm around people like Awoken, who's I'm yelling at because he brings out the worst in me. I'm just kidding, Awoken. I love you. All right. Let's see. I thought that the camp directors found out you streamed on the job. Well, they did find out, but it's because I told them. I didn't like hide it. It's not like I was secretly streaming. Well, we'll get there. I wonder if they told on you. Do people? That's not the case. Do people know what being tired is? When I worked at a camp, I would get more quiet due to being tired. Anybody would get tired with that energy every day. Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind, I think part of it was because we had like 2 or 3 95-ish degree days in a row. And it was dreadful. And right before that, it was just 4 consistent days of just torrential downpour after thunderstorm after whatever. You know, we didn't really have good weather for a while too. That plus like the camps were small, so we weren't assigned to as many activities, and it wasn't as much running around as it would normally be. And even though that means it's less taxing, it's also a much more mellow environment. So it led to a very like kind of calm, mellow, like not sad, but just more like quiet and reserved side of my personality because there was less going on mixed with the greater weather conditions and all that. Mention the pay. I will mention the pay soon in a professional way. He already told us the pay, the humidity and heat combo. Oof, yeah. Now, one thing I will note is, and I'm only going to do this based off of public information, what I'm about to tell you. Here. I'll have this on. I'll do this. Okay. Here we go. Alright. Wesley Forest, Camp and Retreat Center. What the heck? Alright, there we go. Okay. If we go to their official website, and we go to Serve With Us, again, this is all public information, Wesley Forest, no, summer program staff. We go to this document that anybody can find. Oh, let me fix chat. There we go. Okay. We go down. We see the hours. 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. More accurately, this is about 8 a.m. to about 10 a.m. Now, it's the same amount of hours there. However, working at the job, we are technically on the clock 24/7 because we can be called at any time to go do something else. So, for example, there were multiple times last summer where people had to, summer staff, who, it says we worked between these hours, actually had to go do a task at like 1 or 2 a.m. Or had to stay super late to finish something that did not get done. This, plus other tasks that are not outlined here. For example, devotional sessions, which are not outlined here, but did this summer become a responsibility. Other things like that. Is the music a little too loud? Or is it good? I think it's a little loud. I'm sorry. Turn it down a bit. Okay. Anyway. So, this is it says 40 plus hours a week. This is technically true. Because I did the math. Technically, we are on the clock 24/7. And this goes over the span of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, on Fridays, we work until we are done, and then we're allowed to leave, which is typically around 6 p.m. So, that's 24 times 4, plus, we are working on that one day, for, let me think, it's from, like I said, about 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is another 10 hours. 106. Then on Sundays, because Saturdays are the only days we have off, on Sundays, we are to report to the job typically around 12, but as early as 10:30. So, benefit of the doubt, I will say 12 noon until, the full day. The full day, because even though it says we're on the clock until nighttime, we are technically on the clock 24/7. We're always called to do activities, and we are advised to keep one radio on all night just in case they need to get a hold of us for something. So, that's an extra 12 hours. 12 to 12. 12 plus 106. 118 hours in 1 week. Which is a lot of hours to be on the clock. We are given a lot of break time and leeway. However, it is apparently an expectation, which is not outlined here clearly by any means, that we are to be spending a lot of our break time with campers unless we really truly feel burnout. So, let's assume that this is the correct estimation for hours. Again, it could be a little more or a little less. It varies on the week. So we take this number, and we see that it says hourly compensation at $10 to $15 per hour based on experience. So technically, let's assume the low end of that times 10. We should be getting over $1,000 a week, but that is not the case. Let's go back to our number here. Because the reality is that we are exactly paid $450 per week unless we have to step in as a counselor. Summer staff run the program activities, whereas counselors stay with a specific group of campers throughout the week and lead them through worship sessions and like eating and the dining hall stuff, and like just leading them to different activities and doing stuff with them. So that if you have to do that, it's $600. What the heck? We'll go back to this. I like this song. Okay. So, that is the actual pay, which is not outlined anywhere here. But that is exactly what it is. Technically, if we're going to be very technical, it is $75 a day if you are normal summer staff. So, let's assume this $450 to, $600 thing. Let's go kind of in the middle and say $500 a week. Because everybody is supposed to be a counselor at least once, but it does not happen often. So let's say $500 a week, which is an overestimation, by the way. Overestimation. Okay, so $500 per week, 118 hours per week. So, We can do $500 per 118 hours. $4.237, $4.24 per week. However, like I said, this is an overestimation. What I have found in my experience is that the actual more accurate estimation is around $3.74. And that's based on numbers from last year that were a little bit lower and did not take into account the extra that we got from being a volunteer counselor, which in reality happens far less than the amount that I gave it credit for here. So, a little over $4, around $4 per hour. That's the actual math that goes with this. All right. Anyway, that is all information that you can find on here or from anybody who has worked there in the past based off of specifically logistical data. There were no opinions in that section. I want to make that very clear. Okay. Back to the main point at hand. Because, as you can see, we are not there for the pay. We are there because, specifically, we love this place, and we love the job, and we love what we're doing. So, when management came to me, specifically one of my bosses, and said that, oh, by the way, minimum wage in Pennsylvania is $7.25 per hour. So, when one of my bosses came to me and said that I was underperforming, I got very frustrated. And I told them that I did not agree by any means with that analysis. And I asked where they got that information from. They said they had not talked with any campers about this. And I told them that if they were to have talked with any campers, they would find out that the campers consistently love my program activities. They love when I am in charge of different events, such as, but not limited to, the challenge course, the field games, the fishing session, which I only really filled in as an extra helping hand there. We did not get the opportunity yet to do archery, but I am archery certified as well. And I also did not get the chance to lead the slingshot range yet, but that's something I did last year, which, again, a lot of people love these activities when I would help lead them. Archery, yes, I'm archery certified. I asked where they got this information from. I asked if they had talked with the staff members, and they said the only thing that they had talked with the other staff members about, such as the two that were on the live stream the other day, were the only thing they really spoke with them about was if they thought that I was all right. And this was sort of confirmed by the other staff members who I asked afterwards, because they had noticed that I was acting either different from last summer or different from the very first week of camp. And I explained to them that I was totally fine. You know, I just act different because I've been through a lot of experiences in the last year, and it's, you know, sort of fundamentally changed how I act in a public setting. What's the bow like? How many pounds of draw force? I'm guessing not too much due to the campers. We have a multitude. The highest one that we allow campers to do, I think, is like 20 pounds, but that's like a lot, especially for campers. So, I don't necessarily know the lowest draw force. I think the lowest draw force is only like, I think it's like 8 pounds, but I could be wrong about that. That is an estimation. So I'm not sure. But we do have a lot of different ones. So it's kind of just, yeah, what a range. Yeah. Well, I think there's part of the range is like that because we're trying to account for a lot of them, and they are compound bows. So they can be adjusted. They have been adjusted. We have quite a few bows. So, yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to it. I told the manager that spoke with me that I was not aware that I was acting standoffish, I think is an exact word that was used. And I was not aware that I was supposedly bringing other people's mood down because of my behavior. And I said that I disagreed with that analysis of my performance at the job, but I would be conscious of that going forward and try to alter any behavior that I notice that does have to do with that. 2 days passed. And so 2 days after that conversation, my other boss wanted to meet with me. And this is like the camp director. she and the boss who met with me before sit me down and give me a piece of paper. And the piece of paper was an employee improvement plan, and it outlined the ways that they think I could do my job better. And this is where things started really going downhill. The the employee improvement plan outlined a few things. I do not have a copy. I did ask for a copy or a scan of it, and I have not yet received it. I don't know if they're still planning on giving one to me because I'm no longer working at that job, but I think it would be fair if I did get one because I did ask for it and have not yet received it. So I'm gonna tell you what I remember based off of that. Again, I wish I could tell you exactly what it said. But I will tell you to the best of my ability. So take what I say here with a grain of salt because this is only from my recollective memory. Give me a sec. I have to wipe my nose because... Oh, I forgot to take my allergy medicine today. Oh my gosh. I've been taking it and I've been a lot better, but I forgot to take it today. They shouldn't talk to other staff like that. They should talk to you first. Seems like a leak of privacy to me. Just a little bit. That's absolutely crazy. They seem like they were out to get you at that point. Turn mic volume up, please. It said... Turn your computer volume up, I think. Here, I can try to make it a little bit louder. I just don't want it to peak. How's that? I turned it up a little bit, but... Okay, here. This is as high as it'll go, but I don't want to peak. So if I start peaking, please let me know. Fred is loud? Oh, okay, no. Well, if it's for Fred, I'm just going to put it back to what it was at. You're just playing backrooms. Here, I'll put it there. It's a little bit higher, I think. Okay. Whew. Okay, so outlined on this piece of paper were a couple vague topics. Who's Fred? Fred is this guy. Fred is that guy. Backrooms jump scare guy. A character in a video game who, for some reason, Dowfish11, aka the Awoken, calls Fred. Hey, Mr. Tukey Man, I'm in the middle of story time. So you can rewind the VOD if you want to catch up, but I'm a little deep into the story, so I'm not going to start it over, but I'm talking about my termination from my job. At least details that I feel like I'm able to share about that. Okay. If somebody in chat actually, if one of my mods wants to give like a brief recap of just up to where we're at, I would appreciate that. You don't, none of you guys have to, but if you wanted to, then I would appreciate that. If not, that's totally fine. They can just rewatch the VOD. But it's an option. It's an option. Doesn't matter. Okay. So, where was I? Okay. So the piece of paper outlines some very vague things in this employee improvement plan. It mentioned about how I seemed to be lacking the leadership skills to lead a group in an enthusiastic and engaging way. I asked where this piece of information was coming from because like I said, I strongly disagree. Every camper that I had spoken to, every staff member, every volunteer counselor, every volunteer dean, everybody said that I did a phenomenal job and they loved my program activities. I made sure to have a smile on my face, and I worked really hard to learn every camper's name. I worked hard to form some type of relationship with each camper and get to know them on a slightly more personal level because I enjoy getting to know people. And part of the job description that we are given, at least we were given this last year and it was less touched on this year, was that we should try to form bonds and relationships with these campers in order to encourage them to have a great time at summer camp. The camper himself all knew he was doing well. He liked the job. Employers came up to him saying he was acting differently, a way that was less ideal for the job. And after doing the math, he only got paid half of minimum wage per hour. I would have told them to pay me more if they wanted that much energy. Well, at the end of the day, as much as I really would have loved and honestly need more pay, I did it because I love it. Um, well, uh, the campers. One specific example that I think really resonated with me. Two specific examples, and I'll breeze through them quickly. This past week we had a smaller camp there that was only there for a fraction of the week. They were only there for a little over half of the week. It was an elementary camp, or maybe I think it was elementary. Very very young campers. Sorry, there's something in my eye. And all week it was either super rainy or super hot. And so at the end of the week, they said their favorite activity was lake time. One of the only activities that I do not facilitate because I'm not a lifeguard. However, before they left, I led them on a hike. And on that hike, whereas we were only really taught and trained to walk the trails, bring them to their destination, and like do whatever, and then walk them back, I made a large conscious effort to point out some interesting things in nature that I saw. I told them all to find a piece of nature on the hike while we were walking, and then show it to me, and I could take their picture, and then we could display them for them. We led them to a creek, we as in me and one of the other summer staff, who was a lifeguard. We led them to a creek so they could stomp around in the creek and go in there. Primarily, I was leading the hike, and the other summer staff member was there to facilitate the creek activity, which I like that dynamic because I really enjoy controlling the hike in a way that I like, you know, and I don't have to be controlling it. But I do really like leading the activity, if that makes sense. I'm always happy to work with other staff members. There's just something fun, in my opinion, also about, you know, the independence and leadership of leading a group like that. So, on top of all of that, I was pointing out interesting things that were in the woods, like, oh, this purple square that's painted on this tree means that this is a no hunting zone. So all the animals you see are local wildlife that don't have to fear getting targeted. I was talking about a couple different plants. You know, I was talking about a couple of things like that. I was telling them stories, and I brought my ukulele. So while we're walking, I'm playing the ukulele, and I'm talking to the campers. And after that hike, after all these hot days where they love swimming in the lake and all of them love fishing, so many of the campers after that said their favorite activity of the entire week, out of all the stuff they did, was that one hike, just because they really enjoyed spending time with me specifically. And that really resonated with me. And that's one of the reasons why I was so frustrated when I got this piece of paper saying I can't lead this group. You wanted to hunt there? That's too bad, dude. One other example is we have this camp called Special Friends. There's some information about it online. It's where we have a lot of people with special needs who are above or 18 years or older, and we just lead program activities like a normal summer camp. This year, I primarily ran the challenge course, which is this. We have some platforms and some planks, and for them, one of the activities we do is just have them balance on this kind of balance beam from one platform to the other. And, you know, for somebody like me, who, you know, has full control of my mind and body, that's, you know, not too difficult of a challenge. However, for a lot of these campers, that is an intimidating challenge, and it gives them a large sense of accomplishment when they get to the end. So we all try to help each other get to the end. They love trying to help their counselors get to the end by holding their hand and walking them across. It's a very wholesome and nice experience. And this year, I thought that it would be really cool to give them an extra challenge, because they've all done this balance beam activity. So I threw in the extra challenge of walking backwards and walking sideways by sidestepping across the balance beam. And a large portion of the campers didn't think they could do it, and then did it. And the sense of joy and pride on their faces when they did that was just an unbelievable and heartwarming feeling. So to hear them come up to me and tell me how much they love the activity, to go around, them going to the other staff and saying how much they enjoyed the activity, them talking with each other about how they were so proud of themselves, was very touching. It was a very touching moment. And these are only two examples of the many, many, many examples of me, you know, at least in my mind, trying to actively be an engaging, entertaining, and aware participant and leader of these program activities. So anyway, this piece of paper in my exact words to my boss, to my bosses, was bogus. I looked at the paper and I looked at them and I said, this paper is bogus and this is the most ridiculous thing I have ever been, like, forced to abide by. You were a good person for once? Yes, for once. Yeah, I took this job very seriously. I did, because, I love joking around, and I would joke around a lot at this job, but at the end of the day, I'm there to try to give people self-confidence, and I'm there to spread the message and the love of God and the Word, and I am there to lead this summer camp, and do the best that I can. So, yeah, well, the paper touched on a few other things, this employee improvement plan, and it was all very insulting, I think is a way to put it. A lot of what was there seemed as though it was based off of preconceived ideas of how I would act in a group setting, based on arbitrary details of things that were not brought to my attention that my boss thought were problems. For example, at one point during staff training week, we were all told to take a break, and the break time was supposed to be swimming in the creek with our two bosses. I did not want to swim in the creek. Same with one of my other fellow coworkers, and we did not. We went to the dining hall where it was a little bit cooler because it was a very hot day, and we just got started on the next task. Little did I know that this would cause a big problem, because one of the things they outlined in this document was I'm not spending my break time adequately enough because I'm not going to the required break time session of swimming in the creek. I explained that I didn't realize it was required and that I didn't think it was much of a break if I had to do something that I did not want to do outside on a hot day after working for a straight 5 hours. And they said that that didn't matter. At least that's the message that I understood from the conversation, whether that is the point they were trying to convey or not. Not spending your break time adequately? Yeah. And that was a big point they hammered home. That I didn't spend my break time enough with campers. That I didn't spend my break time enough helping out with other program activities that I was not called to. They said I did not take enough initiative. And I asked what that meant. And they said that when they gave daily tasks and told me to take a break, I did not actively seek out extra tasks to do that were not on the list. And I told them that that is not a fair interpretation of the situation by any means. And they said that that's too bad. And then they basically told me, in many more words, that if I did not sign this paper agreeing to do a daily check-in and an extra employee performance review in the beginning of July, that I'd be fired. And I asked to clarify if I would be fired if I didn't sign it, and they said that there is no universe where I don't sign the paper, that I have to. And I said, so I will be fired if I don't sign it. And then they said no, that they wouldn't fire me if I didn't sign it. So I told them that I'm not comfortable with signing this paper because I don't agree with any of the points that are on it, and all of them seem like they are sprouting from preconceived ideas of how I'm doing my job and not based on any factual or observable anything, really. That sounds kind of illegal. Well, just wait. That's illegal in California. That sounds really weird. They wanted you to swim with them. I agree. I think it was kind of strange, in my opinion. The breaks are for you, not others. So they were upset that you were using your break time and not continuing to work. No, I did continue to work in my break time, and they were upset that I didn't spend the break time swimming with them. This all sounds very sketchy. It gets far more sketchy. So, at this point, I end up signing the paper because I feel like I don't have a choice. They did give me the opportunity to, what they called, amend the document. They said that I could take out things that I did not feel were accurate and replace them with things that I felt were more accurate. So I told them things I did not find accurate and told them what I found more accurately, and they disagreed with everything that I said. They basically stomped on everything that I said and said that they weren't going to change it. Every idea that I had to amend the document, they ignored. And I noticed that they did not seem willing, in my opinion, to amend this document. They brought that up as an option to make it seem as though I had the opportunity to do it, to make me feel as though I had any power in this situation, which I think is a very frustrating and unfair move. That legit breaks California labor laws. Here you're entitled to a 30-minute duty-free meal break if you work more than 5 hours. Small point on that. One of the volunteer counselors was a friend of mine who I haven't seen in almost a year. On one of the meal breaks, the only meal break that I spent away from the staff table, I went to spend with him in the same room about 30 feet away. And I got a lot of flack after that for not spending that one meal session with the rest of the summer staff. I got flack because I spent the one meal session with a friend I haven't seen in almost a year, who I used to work with and who I haven't, had the opportunity to spend any time with in a while. I thought that was kind of a strange take, in my opinion. That's manipulative, says Smelly. I sometimes fill out schedules for my mom who works at Goodwill, and they require 30-minute breaks if you work at least 6 hours. Yeah, when I worked at McDonald's years ago, they required 30-minute breaks. And I remember the one day I told them that I was willing to keep working because I wasn't hungry and I wasn't tired and I had a lot to get done. And they told me that I had to take a break and that they would not let me continue working. And I appreciate when a company does that. I did not enjoy my time at McDonald's when I worked there, but I did appreciate them following normal work practices. It feels like, from my point of view, I notice a lot of behavior that I would deem to be sketchy, again, not from a business background or a management background by any means, that I feel like this camp and possibly others get away with because it is under the umbrella of a church environment. And a lot of it can be chalked down to a decision of, is this a business establishment or a religious establishment? Or a weird in between. These managers sound very controlling and their staff of their staff, and I think it's 100% weird. They wanted all adult staff to swim with them. I agree. Again, I'm not saying names. I'm not trying to slander anybody. I will say the camp director before the one we currently have was phenomenal, in my opinion. I never worked for her, though. I only encountered her through being a camper at Wesley Forest. And from what I hear, before her was good, too. I'm not going to speak on any of the character traits of any of the people in this story. I'm only going to speak about my perspective. And I will allow people in chat to formulate your own opinions on the situation. Okay. So, we're almost at the end here. We're getting relatively close. So, there was a lot more nitty-gritty that this document laid out. And a lot of the things were criticisms that I feel were very unfair. There were one or two criticisms that I think were fair. One of them was that I had a lot of cell phone usage. I would be on my phone during what I thought were my break times, but apparently were supposedly not, which was not clear to me. And let me explain how it was not clear to me. They would tell me that I had no tasks to do. I would ask them if there's anything they need me to do, if they would please radio me, and they said that they would. So I would sit around with my radio, sometimes on my phone, sometimes with the kitchen staff, helping them with random things in the back. And apparently, it was unbeknownst to me that they wanted me to go to program activities and still just stand there anyway. They waited until it became a problem that they, I think, orchestrated themselves, in my opinion, to then tack on other random things like I should have been doing more for my job when I wasn't. When it was never outlined to me that that was an expectation in the first place. They said a couple things about how in the employee contract, that, or in like the like job description, all this stuff, it outlines things that I can tell you after reading all of it, it did not outline by any means. And I won't get into it, but I do have proof of this. I have the employee staff manual that goes over all of the expectations and criteria for the summer staff. We were required to read it back to front. And I can tell you that I followed everything in there to a T and went above and beyond with my job performance. So, I signed the paper, I agreed to the daily meetings. And in the next day, well, the next morning was yesterday. Yesterday was my first daily employee performance, like, analysis or talk or whatever you want to call it, meeting, whatever. And I was very frustrated. Now, I will admit I am going to take a little bit of accountability. Because at one point, I did say something that I am not necessarily proud of. But I would like it to be heard that I am not trying to cover up any details of the situation. At one point, a camper from across the room yelled over to me, "Hey Ryan, come over here and tell me about blank, about such and such." And I replied snarkily, a little bit. I said, something along the lines of this, and here is about how I said it. It was something along the lines of, as much as I would love to come over and talk with you, I think I should stay at the staff table in fear that my job may be terminated. Now, that is by no means something that I should have said to a camper. Because a camper does not need to be dragged into this situation. And I'm going to admit that. And after saying that, I was immediately very embarrassed. I'm going to be honest, I sat down with remember that friend who I said I hadn't seen in a while, and he was there as one of the volunteer counselors. I sat with him. I sat down with him for a few minutes after that encounter. I went over to him and I explained the situation, and I told him what was going on, and I told him that I was embarrassed, and he said, yeah, like that was like no, that was sick. I mean, my boss was sitting right there, so it was kind of sick. I'm not proud of it, but, you know, it was nothing horrible. It's not like I snapped at anybody or anything, but it was a mini crash out moment. And I said to my friend that I was embarrassed because one of the things I really try to portray is professionalism, especially around campers. And with that happening, I don't crash out. I mean, I play Jump King and I fall and I go, "No, this sucks, I hate this game," and I sit there like this. But in a professional setting, I do not crash out. And this, I think, was a great example of me getting to my breaking point, of me not having the required information that my bosses wanted me to have, of me feeling as though I am being taken advantage of and underappreciated, and of me not getting ample time to myself without worry of being reprimanded or put through the gutter, if you will. Deserved crash out. So my boss pulled me aside and said, "What was that about?" And I told her, still, I'm sure in a snarky voice because I was still upset, but I tried pulling it together and not being mean to her. I said, "I apologize for my behavior. I'm always open to constructive criticism." Just like that. And I'm sure it came out in a snarky way. But I want it to be known that to my boss, I did not say, "Well, you said this, and you did that, and you did this, and blah, 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 blah." And she said, "It's comments like that that are unacceptable, and I will not tolerate them. And I said, there must be a misunderstanding or a miscommunication between you and I, because I do not see where you're coming from with regard to my job performance, or something along those lines. And she made another comment. I said something else. Don't really remember. And then we went back to the breakfast table. Okay, so there was a detail that I forgot happened. Well, I remembered it. I just forgot that it happened before this. I'm sorry. I left something out. So let's go back. The two bosses at Wesley Forest. Great time to do that, Awoken. Thank you for that. The two bosses at Wesley Forest. They were getting on my nerves. I felt as though the employee improvement plan was not an accurate portrayal or reflection of my job performance, my behavior, or my work ethic. So, I reached out to my boss's boss, one of the overseers of the Susquehanna Conference summer camp, like, I guess, sector, if that's what you call it. I explained the situation over a phone call, and I explained how I felt that this situation was unfair, and I would like some type of action to be taken. And I said this does not have to be legal action. I said, I think we agreed that a sit down conversation with this guy, so her boss, as a moderator of the whole thing, would be a step in a positive direction. If it came to that. So I said I'd give it a few days and see what happened, and then we would reconvene and go from there. So, I did go over her head to try to ease out this situation. Now, I want to make it clear everybody has expressed at this camp that they feel as though the work environment is not ideal. I'm not going to give examples, but I want it to be known that I am not alone in thinking, at least from my experiences. I'm trying to be very careful with the wording here, because I want to make sure that everything I'm saying is entirely accurate. From my experiences, it seems beyond the benefit of the doubt that there are many consistent problems that other staff members and volunteers alike have noticed with management of this camp. Back to my own personal experiences in this situation. So then the whole breakfast crash out thing happens. And then some time goes by and I'm just doing my job. I'm doing whatever. And I'm spending time with campers. And the break time that I have, I'm spending with campers and whatever. And then I go on a break in the dining hall alone, and 3 people walk in. This is about 7 p.m. yesterday. 3 people walk in. It was the 2 bosses I was talking about, and then the higher up that I had called on the phone. So her boss. And they sat down with me, and I don't remember the exact wording. I said hello to them, and the boss that I had reported on the phone, or I don't know if reported is the right word, the boss that I was talking about, the main person who had, in my mind, been causing a lot of this chaos, said to me, Ryan, we are all here to inform you that your actions and behavior are not an accurate portrayal of what we want this camp to stand for. We are not going to tolerate the way that you are acting in this camp setting. And for this reason, your job here is terminated. Your summer staff position is coming to an end. And you are to gather your belongings, and we will escort you off the premises immediately. I don't remember the exact wording, but that is the point they got across in about the same words I just said. So, I looked at them and I was thinking what to say. And I said, okay. And I made a point that I don't agree with them, but I told them that I understood what they were telling me to do and that I would abide because I had fought my fight. That's it. I had fought my fight. I stood up for what I believed in. I stood up for not just myself, I mean, definitely myself, but I stood up for all of the other people who came to me with experiences about the difficulties that they feel they have faced because of the management. I stood up for what I believed in. I stood up for my own work ethic. I stood up for my own self-respect. And they fired me for it. And after this, I say I understand, and I'm willing to do what they say. So I'm turning in my walkie-talkie and my keys. And I said to this boss, the one who was giving me all this stuff before, I said, like all this crap before, in my opinion. I said, can you please tell me specifically why I'm being fired? And she said something along the lines of, at this point, you have had ample opportunity to understand why, and I'm not going to give you any more information on why you're being fired. That's a weird take to me. So I looked at her boss. Again, the one I called on the phone the previous day. Now, I want to make it clear. I am not saying that he called my boss and ratted on me. I am not saying that. I am saying that the timing is coincidental and convenient. I am not alluding to the fact that I specifically believe that he turned his back on me, lied about being willing to mediate a conversation, and went to my boss. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that it is odd that he went from that to immediately being unwilling to hear out my point of view. And entirely closed off to the conversation. Well, I look at him and I say, can you please explain to me why I'm being fired from this position? And he said, I am unable to explain that to you at this time. You need to just grab your things and we will escort you off of the property. I don't know all the laws of the workplace, but I'd be willing to bet that there is some law that says that I at least deserve to know a valid reason for my termination at my job. Terminating an employee for reasons that violate public policy is also illegal. This includes firing someone for refusing to engage in illegal activities or for exercising their legal rights. Pennsylvania labor laws. Yeah. So, I said, and these are the exact words I said. I looked at him, and I said, fair enough. Because I realized that even if I did quote a law like that, even if I did try to retaliate, even if I did swing my sword and keep trying to fight, there was nothing that was going to let me stay there. I realized that whether I wanted to continue this fight or not, whether I thought this was worth the time and effort or not, the next step, no matter what, is I have to get my things and leave. So I gathered my belongings. And I went all around camp, and they followed me around everywhere I went. And I got all of my things. And when I got to lower camp, which is where this happened at upper camp, when I got to lower camp, where we, summer staff, were staying, where like our beds and stuff were, I said to my boss, does anybody else on staff know that I'm being fired? And she said no. And I said, well, I'm very close friends with them. Can I please have the opportunity to tell them goodbye and wish them a good summer before I leave? And she said, absolutely not. Her words. Absolutely not. And I said, okay. And I grabbed the rest of my things from lower camp. I loaded up my car. And then I realized I forgot something at upper camp. Or no, not that I forgot. I realized I needed to grab something and I wanted to circle back with my car instead of driving it down to lower camp in a camp vehicle and then loading it there because my car was. Anyway, I had to go back up to lower camp for some other reason. Anyway, so we go back up to lower. We go back up to upper camp. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. We go back up to upper camp so I can grab one or two more of my things. And it came time to say my goodbyes. No other summer staff were around. The only goodbyes I could say, no other kitchen staff, no maintenance staff, no counselors, no volunteers, anything, no campers. It was just me, my two bosses who work at Wesley Forest, and the boss of my boss, if that makes sense. The guy who I called, the guy who came in, the guy who I said fair enough to. Can't wait for the Ryan versus Summer Camp lawsuit. Bruh. Yeah. Well, so I was at a crossroads because at this point I had gotten all my things. I was about to get in my car and we're all just standing there looking at each other. And I have the option of either saying something to them or getting in my car and driving away. And what do you say to people who you feel have just stabbed you in the back? Now, let me just tell you. There is so much more that went into this situation. So much hypocrisy that I had noticed. Things that they called me out for that I would notice the management immediately doing tenfold. There was so much of unreasonable sharing of what I thought was confidential information. And I think that it was very, at the end of the day, the best word, I had talked with my parents about this after this had all happened. The best word that I heard explained for this, and the word that I kept hearing a lot when I explained this to some of my close friends and some other people, the word that described this was sketchy. I think this entire thing was very sketchy. I think no part of this firing process was conducted in a professional way. And I think that the entire situation was very, very, I guess, reminiscent of like if somebody's pulling a lot of strings in the background of something. It's very sketchy. 100% sketchy. Like I'm imagining if I'm being fired from a job. I was never fired from McDonald's. But I'm imagining that if I was fired from McDonald's, that I would have been pulled into the office after being given a verbal warning or having to undergo some type of employee training. Or something like that. Again, this did not happen. This is an example. I would imagine that after undergoing some type of something like that, which was what I would imagine the employee improvement plan is supposed to begin to serve as, that I would be told by one of my managers that I am doing X, Y, and Z incorrectly. I have had the opportunity to improve. I have shown through the numerous opportunities that I was given that I was unwilling to improve and that my position would be terminated because I cannot keep up with the lined out specific requirements for the job that I signed up for when filling out the work papers initially. This was absolutely nothing like it. This was absolutely nothing like that by any means. So, I'm looking at these three people, wondering if I should say any words to them or get in my car and just leave. And I decide that I should say something to them. So I go to the boss that fired me, the one who I view as antagonistic in this process. The most, I think all of them have been antagonistic to me and my everything, but the one who I feel has the most wronged me in this situation, the one who has been the boss, not like the boss of the boss, but like, you know who I'm talking about. I go to her, and the only thing I say to her was, "Thank you for this opportunity of working here this summer again. I wish I could have met your expectations." Or something like that. I go to the boss of the boss, that guy who I called on the phone and all that. I go to him, and I say, "It's been a real pleasure working with you, especially during staff training week. I think I learned a lot from you, and I appreciate the time that I spent underneath you." And then he shook my hand. Then I went to the final boss, and I said, she's getting a new job somewhere after this summer. So I told her, "Good luck on your new job that you're getting after this summer. I think that's a really incredible opportunity, and I hope you do a phenomenal job there." They didn't say anything to me other than maybe thank you at one point. And I got in my car, and they watched me as I drove away. I stopped for a chocolate milkshake. I didn't even really want one, but I was like, now seems like a good time for a chocolate milkshake. But I wasn't sad, if that makes sense. I think this summer has really opened my eyes to self-respect. And at the end of the day, after everything, as much as I miss how the job once was and how much I miss the idea of working there, I am very proud of myself for standing up for myself and for having the self-respect that I feel I now have, and defending myself, even though it meant losing the job that I may have really liked based on how much I liked it last summer. I feel so bad we were ragging on you for the milk preferences. Now I'm sorry. No, you don't feel bad, Ellie. I would not get into online fights with people about stupid stuff if it bothered me. Trust me. Regular milk is better. The fight was about regular milk. No, I have not been sad at all since not working at Wesley Forest. I talked with my mom, and she, after everything I've said, is interested in potentially pursuing something. That is all the information that I'm going to disclose, because I don't know if anything will actually happen. I don't know how involved I will be in any type of process of pursuit with this situation, if at all. And if I am, I do not want to say any extra information here that could be used against me, which is why everything I said here, I want to make it very clear, is 100% my opinion, my truths that I have specifically observed, and my specific point of view on the situations based off of my own interactions with people in management, staff, counselors, and etc. And I did my best here to not give away any personal information of anybody. And all of this that I am saying here does accurately reflect how I feel about the entire situation. That out of the way, I am looking into a new job. I am expecting an email back in the next couple days, actually, because from what I hear, a manager, or I don't know if it's a hiring manager or a schedule manager or what the case is, got my contact information, and I should be, assuming I get this job, which I like to think that I have a good chance of getting it, will be given better benefits, higher pay, more understanding of a work environment from what I hear from people who I know who work in this place. And overall, a better work experience that will allow me to make ample YouTube videos and continue on with my live streams very, very often, as opposed to doing it once or twice a week. So, that is the entire situation. The only other things are I am getting paid through the end of the day yesterday. I am getting compensated for expenses that I made for my job, such as the archery certification that I mentioned earlier on. And, without mentioning anybody else, overwhelmingly the amount of staff and counselors and friends of mine who are in some way involved directly in this situation, overwhelmingly and without an exception, everybody who I have communicated with in some way since then has been very supportive of me, understanding of my situation, and nothing but kind, respectful, appropriate, and great to me, honestly. So, that is the whole situation. So what do we think? My voice hurts. I need water. If you do pursue higher, you should delete the VOD on Twitch and private it on YouTube. I could. Smelly! No way! Change your PFP. Oh, true. Smelly! Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Smelly, you are such a real one. I appreciate you. Subscription towards the lawsuit fund. Thank you, Smelly. I appreciate it. Pog, yo! The safest move? Yeah, you're probably right. I did try saying everything here such that if this does get brought to the surface and is used in the future, then nothing I said here can be used in any sense against me. Which is why you'll notice in so many sentences, probably annoyingly, I said, in my opinion, from my perspective, my own truths, all this stuff. I tried very hard to ensure that everything I said, I made a point that it was from my perspective and not necessarily an accurate representation of the camp as a whole. I know how these things work. I know how they work. Oh, will Ryan win? Oh, this is... Why is this still on here from before? This prediction. Will Ryan win and buy scrap? This is from a while ago. There we go. Let me... whatever. Oh, he did buy scrap. I did buy scrap mechanic. Feels good. Feels good to talk about this. Anyway, more streams, more money, more problems. Less problems. Less problems. I feel good. I'm happy with how things are going. So, yeah, change your PFP. That is a good idea. I don't know what to change it to, though. I'm gonna get water. I'll be right back. Be entertaining. BRB. Not milk. I've been drinking more water. I need water for my throat. My throat hurts. Back. So back. Oh. Dude, I'm gonna crash out. Dude, I can't handle this. You're literally spamming me 1 2 1 2 3. Hold on. Dude. Hold on. You're spamming me 1 2 1 2 3 1 3 1 2 3 stupid. Bruh. Fixed. Pro streamer fixes problem. It was entertaining. You said it would be entertaining. Wait. Sorry, I have to go back. I have to go back up. Scrap stream later. Or Awoken and ADG stream later. I'm not sure yet. Either way, Doger, I will do a scrap stream with you and Cool Pencil today or tomorrow, as long as you guys are free tomorrow if it ends up getting pushed. Let's see. You are addicted to Scrap Doger. True, he is. I'm not entertaining. I'm ADG at entertaining. The Steam invite spam. You'll never guess who did it too. Wait, ADG. It was entertaining. You said to be entertaining. True. You need something on stream. You're not free tomorrow? We'll figure it out. Independence Day marching band parade. Tomorrow's literally not Independence Day. So the parade is all day? All day? Alright. We'll figure it out then, Cool Pencil. We'll figure it out. I figured out that if you drink milk with medicine, it dilutes it. Oh, man. Oh, it's in Michigan. Oh, so you have to go far. Maybe it's Michigan's Independence Day. Maybe they're leaving the U.S. Oy, oy, oy. Who has seen the new Amazing Digital Circus? I saw it. It was great. What the heck was that sound? I don't know or want to know. I don't know or want to know. You forgot? Oh my gosh. Dude, what? I'm gonna crash out. What? Okay, hold on. I exited Steam entirely. If it's coming from Steam, it won't happen anymore. You guys didn't hear that? Okay. Whatever. How long have I been live? Only an hour and a half.
Dude, that's time loss.
Dude, that's time loss. That's such a good sound effect. Okay, I don't have anything else to do. Dude, I'm actually gonna lose my mind. Awoken, I'm literally... Dowfish, please stop doing that. I have looked into how to fix the problem, and there's no way to do it. There's literally no way to make him stop unfollowing and refollowing just so it keeps appearing on screen. All because of one mod, Insanity mod. Awoken, you are a cringe lord. Alright, I don't have anything else to do right now. I have dinner in a while. And then tomorrow we might also do, wait for it, Mario Odyssey speedrun practice! Woo! Next time we're gonna call, I'll play it for you. You can't even. Have you thought of not having a sound when someone follows? I like having sound when people follow. Common Dowfish W. Thank you, Harry Mario. Again? What for? Down. Alright, well. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, I'm going to be live tonight later. I'm going to end stream here for now. And, yeah, I will be live later. And we will be playing video games with somebody. Either with Doja and Cool Pencil, doing Scrap Mechanic, or ADG and Awoken doing... Honestly, Escape the Backroom sounds kind of fun. Maybe Repo, I don't know. Escape the Backrooms I think would be really fun, because I think they were talking about some cool thing with it, but maybe not. Maybe I'm lying. What time tonight? 6 or 6:15. Starting around 6 to 6:15. Repost for Saturday? Got it. Wait. No, it's Steam Saturday is Saturday. Saturday is Steam Saturday. Whose pick is it for Steam Saturday? I did my pick. No, I didn't. I did not do my pick. Mine was kind of tacked on because we did ADG's pick. I haven't gotten a pick yet. I mean, I got like my I got like a kind of a mini pick just to fill in some time, but I didn't get to actually pick like a game for us to actually sit through and play. Okay, Awoken went because we did Buckshot Roulette. What was Minis? Did Mini go? I didn't think Mini went. Ryan, I gave you a game suggestion for Steam Saturday. I chose Bean Battles. Wait, no, but did that... I mean, if that counted as my Steam Saturday, that's fine. I just didn't think we were counting that. Mini was Repo? No, I don't think we counted that. I think we just did Repo because we wanted to do Repo. Steam Saturday is more of like a random, like, one-off game that we play like one time, maybe twice. Bagel Ball. I think Mini still has his pick available. I think it was just Awoken and ADG who did their picks. But, is that how we were doing that? I don't know. Either way, I do have a pick. But, if we're counting Bean Battles as mine, then I can wait. I think we can do Repo tomorrow, and then Sunday we can do a Steam Sunday. How about... Okay, how about this? Let's come to an agreement. Tomorrow is Mini's pick. And Mini's pick is Repo. Next week will be my pick. Unless we're going to count Bean Battles. Then we can cycle back to Awoken. It can be his pick next week. What do we think? I don't want to do Steam Sunday because then it gets confusing. Mini may not be available tomorrow. Oh, I thought he would be. If you let Mini pick now, it's closer to being my pick. And you don't want that. I do want that. I'll play whatever game. But just know if we do Repo for Steam Saturday tomorrow, I'm totally down for that. But then we do not do Repo for a Steam Saturday in the future. At least for the foreseeable future. He was in a call for a moment an hour ago. He said, see y'all in 2 days. Oh, I thought he was coming back tomorrow. Okay. In that case... I thought it was Saturday. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. If Minnie's not back tomorrow, then we will do Steam Sunday. If that works for everybody else. But only this week. Because I miss my friends. Alright, well, we'll figure this all out. This doesn't have to be something I figure out right here, right now. Works for you? Sounds good, ADG. I assume it works for Awoken. If Ryan does Scrap Mechanic, would you still buy it? The ADG. I did buy Scrap. That's not the game I have in mind. I'd buy it if he plays. Let me see. I think I only have one Steam Saturday game that I'm planning on doing as of right now. Let me check real quick. Then I'm probably gonna end stream, and then I'll be back live again in like 2 hours, maybe a little less time. Not sure. Dinner might go a little later than that. Let me look. I'm excited for the Babel Steam Saturday. That'll be a filler one. If one goes too short, we'll do Babel. Yeah. I've got one game for Steam Saturday. And to my knowledge, I don't think that any of you guys have played this, as in Awoken ADG or Mini. But I could be wrong. Maybe you have. You might have. I don't know. We'll see. Alright, I'm ending stream. Enough yapping. I'll be live again in 2 hours. I'm not saying what it is yet. Would you want to be a guest for Steam Saturday if me can't show? Alright, no, here's okay. Listen, let me make something clear. Let me make something very clear. Alright? Because I get messages from numerous people asking if they can join Steam Saturday. Let me make something very clear. My idea of Steam Saturday is specifically I play a random game on Steam that is picked by either me or somebody else with Awoken, ADG, and Mini. The 4 of us. No more, no less. Never 3 of us. Not other people. I will play other games with my other viewers randomly, like Scrap Mechanic. I'm definitely planning on playing with Doger and Cool Pencil. I will do random games like Minecraft or Babel or whatever with chat. But specifically for Steam Saturday, that is a me, Awoken, ADG, and Mini activity. Does that make sense? Smash Kart stream when? Don't even know what that is. I'll have to look into it. Alright. I'm heading out. Peace out, Epic Gamers. I'll see you in 2 hours. Be back. Be back in 2 hours. Be there or be square. Okay. I'm not even going to do my outro. Who cares? Alright. Bye. No, I will do my outro. I don't care. I want to do it now. I want to. Bye. 2 hours. I'll be back. So go get some popcorn. Or go eat dinner. And 2 hours. Okay. Peace out, Epic Gamers. For now. Peace.